Hello and welcome to Spitfire. This is, of course, season 2, episode. Is it 13? It's not. It's 14.
14.
It's 14. You just haven't changed the topic.
That's what I'm doing now. That's why I was like, hold on.
Oh, oh.
Episode 14. My name is Bryce. I'll be bringing you the topics for this one. Of course, join me here, Chris Tunn, currently frantically trying to get the topic right for it. He'll be doing production, and of course, chipping in when he can and wants to. And of course, more importantly, our guests for this week, one of which is not here at the moment, but who is here, is Big Momo Whitfield, who I just saw somebody say he looks like a snack. Phil, you just got your hair cut for everything for Spitfire. I mean, that's...
Listen, Bryce gave me the call. He was like, listen, Spitfire. In fact, no, it was Tun. I shouldn't leave Tun out. Tun was like, you're on Spitfire. And I'm like, listen, I need to get my hair cut for this incredible, monumentous moment of my career. I will say, on a more serious note, Spitfire's been doing really, really well. It's nice to see like 100 people in here. But yeah, I'm here as, oh my goodness, all wits in the chat.
We've been blessed.
Oh my god. Let's all bow down. After 3, 2, 1. Bow to Rel.
Big old Rel. I still wish he was casting.
That's my brother, by the way.
He would be a great duo to Miles. Anyway,
Thanks,
right.
bro.
So let's talk about this Doug Sensemeyer stuff then, because it's interesting in the fact that it is basically the big COD news at the moment, with the beta coming up, and with obviously the franchises all being quiet for the meantime. For the simple reason being that contracts are being signed and stuff. There's only been one thing, and it has been Doug coming back into it. Now, there was a video last time we talked about where Doug was saying he needs to be on a franchise because he can do it, and then this week everything exploded. Players have gone back at him. I believe the people in the argument are people like Machilla, Blast, Dashi. Who's the last one? I've forgotten one.
Ricky?
Is it Ricky?
Yeah.
I saw Ricky was added. I don't know if he reacted. I think he's too busy
Yeah.
playing Alcatraz.
So they've been going back and forth, and Doug has made many videos claiming slander. Now, if Doug was here, which unfortunately he isn't at the moment, I could ask him a few questions about it, and he'd have a statement to read on it so far. But I'm a little bit curious as to Doug's play in this, because yesterday, I believe Doug reacted back to some of the comments again from Dashi and Blast by dressing in a clown outfit. So I don't know how serious this is for him now.
I will say, first and foremost, and I wish he was here, obviously, I haven't watched his YouTube videos on the topic, so I've not heard it from his point of view. I think he made like a 50-minute one about the
Jet skis.
no, I think it was a video about like the COD burner at the time, and it was too long for me. Like, I just didn't want to watch it. I wish he was here to kind of say his side of it, but yeah, I haven't seen his videos. I did see the clown picture though. I thought that was just hilarious.
Oh, before we go any further, that reminds me, Ton.
What?
We had a DM conversation this week, didn't we? About because we were talking about Sensor.
Yes.
Wow.
I forgot about this. This is something exclusive. Doug, Sensor, Martin, Sensor, and the COD burner had an argument, as we all know. That's part of COD history.
They had a thing. Yeah.
The COD burners actually come back.
Well, we say the COD burner. We're talking about Edgar here.
Yeah.
He's neither definitely the COD burner or not.
Yeah.
Just lay it out there.
And he's obviously Doug Sensor might do his ridiculously long video. I'll skip through it. And basically Edgar's saying he has proof contrary to every single fact that Sensor said, right? Because
Yes.
you spoke to him. I don't know much about him.
I spoke to him, and I'm not going to give like too many details of it over, but basically he given me a lot of interactions with people in the community who Doug had brought into the argument, where Edgar has went to these people just to confirm and deny things that did or did not happen. He showed me a lot of stuff that was sort of against what Doug had said. Again, it's hard to do without it's hard to say it without putting it up there, and he didn't want me to put these DMs out here because there's he's had DMs with players and stuff like that to say, well, I didn't do this, can you tell me you didn't do this, etc, etc. So he's just getting it for his own peace of mind, and any journalists who came to him, he was potentially going to use them there. But plenty of players who came forward and sort of denied some of the things Doug said in his argument against the burner. The burner Edgar wasn't everything in there, of course. He did say he had more, but he gave me some stuff in there. So things like the picture that he apparently took of, I think it was Formal and Co. at Seattle in the hotel. That wasn't him who took that at all. I think it was Oreo, actually. And a few other little things like that here and there. So without it's all very well me saying this. Edgar's quite happy to probably discuss it with anybody who wants to talk about it, but obviously he didn't want to come on himself. But either way, there's been at least some hit back from Edgar to say, well, this is not true, etc., etc. But I know that that's sort of been dealt with privately to a point, so didn't want to really go on it too much. But I think it's really given me curiosity, and anything that sort of Doug said, it sort of backs up a lot of what has been the backlash to him this week, because a lot of people will be like, well, no, that's not what you said, and that's what he said, etc., etc. But then it has transpired that this has happened again in a different situation with Edgar. So it hasn't helped Doug's case for me. I don't think this week in general has helped Doug, full stop. Not coming on here is not helping him right now. I will say this would be a good opportunity for him to talk to us, because I think him,
I have many questions.
Go on. Yeah, well, exactly. That's it, isn't it? Like, he can go on and put up his own videos, question into blast, but it's different if you can come on and you can speak to him about it. It's all very, I don't know, one-dimensional both ways. It's always like, I said this, no he didn't. I said that, no he didn't. Whereas we can maybe extract it from him a bit better, Brycey.
I mean, so many of these questions, because this all started off as, should Doug be on, a roster? And Doug has turned it into, I don't even know. So, Doug has muddied the waters. I don't even know what this argument is about anymore. He's like, he needs to be on a franchise because he's dedicated and he's grinded. Well, we all know that doesn't mean a lot, because you haven't played in so long and so on and so forth. But for some reason, the entire argument seems to be revolving around whether or not he went onto a jet ski and whether or not he was ill.
It's just got so out of control.
And I don't think any franchise is out there. He's sitting there going, well, did he go on a jet ski? We can't pick him up if he skipped for a jet ski.
That's what he's doing now, instead of being on here.
I know. We are supposed to have Sensor on. I am hoping that he jumps in at some point while we're talking about him, and then we can get these questions answered. But I had the DM that says he was good with it. So we announced him, and now he's there.
I think he's also smart in what he's doing YouTube-wise and view-wise.
Oh yeah,
and
it's expected.
He's a very smart dude in that sense, and I think he knows more than anyone. Like, you're going to be on a roster if you're good enough, and like, I can see a team picking him up as like one of the 5 subs out of a 10 roster kind of thing for his public figure, if you like, right now. But has he done anything over the past year to kind of prove that he should be picked up on a starting line or of a roster? No. Like,
his last championship was 2015.
Yeah.
His last roster championship. So when he got stats and
but I don't think if you asked him now, and I wish he was like, if I was to say, Doug, do you think you deserve to be on a starting roster or a franchise?
He would say yes.
Like, if he said yes, then for me that's ridiculous. I think there's too many other people.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Of course there is. And
that's just a smaller pool of professional players' first team spots this year as well. On top of that,
did anyone pick him up on the draft?
No. He didn't get drafted. Of course he didn't get drafted. No one even considered picking up Doug. So my biggest issue with Doug is I don't see what his angle is. Is he trying to put himself out to franchises as, I will lead your team to wins? Because being perfectly honest, there isn't an example of that. And he's just said, I'm very dedicated, I'm going to grind, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Well, there are also a lot of players who will say they do the exact same thing, and they've been playing. They were in the open bracket last year. They moved up into the pros. They were still playing all of World War II, and they've got championships before that. Like, there is so many players willing to lay down a barbed wire just to get into these franchise teams. Like, saying that you're dedicated for it. Where is the dedication? That's what I was one question. Where is the dedication, Doug? Where were you last year?
He's not even on the podcast.
I know.
Which he agreed to come on.
He agreed 40 minutes ago to come on this podcast. He's not even here.
The reason that, like, again, I don't watch the YouTube videos is like that's his point of view, and I'm sure he would put himself in the best light possible, which you would do, of course, especially going into such an important year. But I'm reading the chat as you guys are talking as well. But if he wasn't the YouTube personality and the personality that he is, like, what angle would he have? Would anyone kind of go for Doug? And if he was picked up as a content creator, or if he was picked up as a personality, or if he was picked up as someone of basically a huge following, like we all know he has that huge following, and we've seen what that can bring. But it's it can't be about his skill. I think Ben put, is he a top 60 player?
No.
And no.
Here's the thing. So I spoke to a few pros during the week, right? And we were going to have I think Matt was going to come on because he was going to talk about some of his experience, right? Here's the thing. But what I think has annoyed a lot of people is that Doug is saying his career has been sidelined, sidetracked. He hasn't been at the top of Call of Duty because of other people. He's pointing the finger at other people saying, yo, I'm not currently playing, or I'm not a champion at the moment because of you, and this happened, and I was backstabbed, and I was, pushed out, and all this, quite frankly, bollocks. Because being perfectly honest, I don't know if you could speak to a pro who's been in Call of Duty for the last 3-4 years who hasn't got those stories. And even longer than that. You can go back a decade and there'll be so many players that can tell you just how much crap has happened to them. Been dropped from nothing, had all their funding taken away, been snaked at the last minute, Fortunately, with roster locks, it happens less. But, talk about the entire Midnight roster this year. That palaver that ended up happening. Talk about Red Reserve. Talk about Denial, all the shit that they went through. To sit there and just frankly say that you deserve it because you're dedicated, but to not have your shit on the line and then blame other people, I'm being perfectly honest, Doug, you're not here, but it's wrong. And I like you as a person, and I respect the grind, and I respect, the fact you keep in shape and you want something. But the truth is, so do many other people. And if you want it, Doug, you can't throw other people under the fucking bus. You've got to man up and do it. Where were you in the open bracket, Doug? Well, that's the way back in. You have to go back in. There are championships trying to get back in. Killer wants back in. He's a world champion, but nobody didn't give him a free ride because we don't believe it. I'm upset, and I wanted Doug on here to say his piece, and then we could talk about it like adults. So he's not here. He's just got me a little bit wound up because I understand how many pros have been upset in a previous bit. But I don't know. I don't know, man. I was hoping he would be here because I had to ask these questions about what he is trying to get. Because right now, all that anybody's talking about with Doug is jet skis and the arguments with him, Blast, and Dashy.
That's the ironic thing, is the whole thing that's come up of him wanting to play has gone into a whole spiral of different other things. And I think that's what you get with Doug when he's in the spotlight. And the reason we wanted him on this obviously podcast was to kind of ask him these questions, kind of, to put our points forward as well, because even with all this aside of who was a bad teammate and who didn't turn up and who went to get a brand deal, like all that aside, like he's putting himself out there for franchises and that's all well and good like everyone else, but so is everyone else. Everyone else is a free agent or restricted free agent at this time, and he can't expect to... He can earn it back. And that's what I'd love Doug. I'd love Doug to be more at the angle of, I know I've been out for a year, I'm looking to get like maybe a sub spot and earn my way back onto a roster and show what I've got. Yeah. But it's the kind of...
Do you not think it's past that point now?
I mean, that's what I would have liked him to come back as, but he came back as, I want to be on a starting roster, blah, blah, blah.
I think franchises are now a little bit worried about Doug, because I also brought up the question about would he actually end up leaving FaZe for it, because he'd have to obviously be in that brand. But I don't know. If Doug had gone onto a video and said, look, I've had some ups and downs in my career. I've been away. I didn't appreciate the last game, or whatever he wanted to say. He could come in and say, look, I want to do some serious work for you. I can do this, this, and this. I want to come in as a sub and prove that I can still do this. Get me with a good team. Get me in the practice, and I'll earn my spot. Would have resonated with franchises the world over, right? They would have genuinely gone, well, we bring Censer in. That's a lot of fans coming in. Has good content. It's going to bring names to our brand. And he says he wants to grind. For me, that's at least worth, a punt as a franchise. It's one of the ones go, well, Doug could be okay. He has won in the past. At the very worst, we have him on a contract and he does content for us, and then we can figure it out later on. But Doug hasn't done that. Doug is determined that what is going on against him, and he's saying is a lot of slander is going against his name. The slander against his name is whether or not he's as dedicated as he says he is. That isn't that. I don't think that's the thing that people should be focusing on. I don't give a shit how dedicated Doug Censer Martin is right now, because everybody's going to say that. I think realistically, franchises are looking for what makes you different, and are you good enough to be on the franchise, or is that what else you can bring? And Doug has other things to bring rather than a career that hasn't really meant an awful lot over the last 3 years. So I can go through this because I just sort of go look up his stats, and not his KD and stuff. Just when he last played and all that, and obviously there was the World Championship, 2018, with Complexity, and that was top 16.
The thing is, there's no getting away from his placements and stuff like that. And we all know that he's won before. We all know that he's had poor performances before, whether it be individual or as a team. And that's why everyone's at the conclusion of that's why everyone is sat here almost saying the same as us, is he can't expect to be on a franchise spot. And I don't know whether he genuinely believes that he should kind of get that. And if he genuinely thinks he should get it purely off his ability, or it's his ability plus his extra, shall we call it, his social presence, if you like. If someone wanted to sign him as a sub and just use him for content, like you said, Bryce, like that might be like an angle by all means, if they wanted to go down that way. And if they saw it as that kind of angle and he saw it as an opportunity to maybe work his way back up again, then sure. But yeah, I'm actually really disappointed he's not on here to
me, you, and everybody in the chat. But I don't know. So Ben brings up a good point, right? So there are several ways to look at this, right? There are, in my mind, maybe three ways to look at what Doug's been going through. One, he genuinely believes he should be on a franchise, and this is his campaign for him to be on a franchise. I don't know if that's the right one at the moment, and there's some other reasons for that. Two, Doug is all about the views and the exposure, and this is the whole first time I've eaten a cheeseburger video again, where he exploded up, and, a lot of people are like, wow, is this real? Is this for real? He wore a clown costume yesterday, which maybe makes me think it's this one, the third one. Or three, Doug is having a mental breakdown.
Just realized I muted myself.
No, we can.
I haven't spoken. No, you can hear me, but the stream couldn't.
Okay.
I was muting because I was typing.
So no.
Anyway, what I was going to say is that does seem to think it does make me think that it's that route because of the way that he has been acting. It's out there. It's a bit different. I don't know. It just seems a bit bizarre. Some of the things that he's doing, like what was benefiting him going in a clown suit, like what. At what point was that a good idea? Just views? Is that it?
Good thumbnail, views.
A couple of thousand people on Twitch?
I don't even know if it was.
Bear in mind, this is the same guy who said he's running for president. Recently as well. That wasn't even that long ago. And so, you know what, Pandex? You said it feels fuzzy tube. It does feel a little bit like that at the moment, doesn't it? And I don't know. Either he's being smart and just, pumping it up for the views, but I wonder where he goes after.
I hope it's that. I hope it's not that he's...
In fact, we're talking about him. So I said we're giving him attention. He's back on the news cycle. We're talking about him once again.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it'd be nice to know that it is rather the views. I'd rather it be the views and the money that kind of is driving the funny stuff on YouTube rather than actually like he's, having a mental breakdown, as you put it. Like, that'd be quite sad. If he's constantly, because I've heard him say things like, for the past 5 years, I've gone to sleep every single night, with slander on my name. And like, I thought, hang on, is that, be real? Has he for the past 5 years? Like, has he cared really for the past 5 years about it, or is it just something now that he's trying to get back into franchising, which is hurting his reputation?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, does he need this? Does he need COD, like to be on a pro team? Anyway.
See, the thing is, I don't think he needs it at all. But the fact he wants it,
dude, he could never pick up a controller again and be on a franchise to make content for them. Like he doesn't need to do this shit. He doesn't, and the fact he's apparently losing sleep about people slandering his name, like he's not successful as shit. Like I can understand if he didn't have anything going for him, he wasn't traveling the world and spending 75,000 on his back garden. But he has a decent YouTube, he has a decent following, people watch when he streams. Like, I mean, this has got to be water off his back, right? Like, who cares?
It's less stress.
I missed a scrim and then was on a jet ski next morning. Who gives a shit? Like, honestly, I mean, if that was the worst people have said about me, I'd be happy. I come on here with terrible facial hair, and I'm a big fat guy. What do you think kind of comments I get every single day? Jesus, let alone me bad casting.
But even like the whole thing where he went after the burner and stuff like this, it was just a bit like...
The burner thing was either, it was either one of the things where he was like, oh, I want to actually expose this guy, or it's again for the memes. And I don't know. I mean, to be fair, that video was memey as fuck anyway. So
It was stupid. I don't know. I don't know. I really want to like Doug, but it makes it
I
really
think
difficult.
Bryce nailed it before. I think, like, don't get this twisted or wrong in the fact that, or I'm speaking for myself here, and I think Bryce said it before. I love Doug. Mate, I mean, personally, I actually think he's great, but his views right now, I just can't agree with. Like, as a person, on a side note, Doug's great. Like Doug, he's jumped on the desk a few times when it was like COD Champs. He's done interviews at, like, I like that side, but I just can't agree with his current views. That's all.
Here's the big crux of the question, though, right? Here's the overarching thing here. Doug is talking about all of this shit to be on a franchise. Being perfectly honest, if you were a GM or an owner of one of these franchises at the moment, and I think there are less educated people on some of them right now than us three in terms of Call of Duty, would you pick up Doug for a roster slot? First team.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely not. No.
Not a million years. I don't think any of us would. And I don't know whether that's,
I'm waiting for the first yes. I'm waiting for the first yes.
I don't think anybody would. I don't think anybody in the chat would. Nobody. We had a 12-man draft. Nobody even considered Doug as a pickup.
I did, to be honest. I thought it'd go well with my squad.
Your squad was comedy.
The United Doug.
I don't know. I don't even know. Right. And here's the thing. Right. So before this all kicked off, would you consider him for a sub spot? Possibly, based on his content. Possibly based on his content. Momo, do you agree with that?
Yep. Content-wise, absolutely.
I think it's actually
personality-wise,
his franchise stuff has actually gone down because of all the hassle behind him for getting onto it now. If I was involved with a franchise, I would be less likely to pick up Doug Sense of Martin now because of all the stuff he's brought around.
100%. I think he could still, like, before all of this, we said last week that we felt he could definitely offer something to a team, but not from his Call of Duty skill standpoint. And I just think, I don't know, man. I said I would like him to, like, still be involved. You know, it's good to have more people in the scene. It's good to have such a big personality like him in the scene. If he's not doing shit like this, like, I don't know. But
I mean, on one side, I think, as much as it sucks to say, like, the whole views and everything that it's bringing, that's bringing him to Call of Duty as well. And even though they're on his YouTube and whatever, like, his YouTube popping and getting all these views and people talking about it on Twitter is great for COD, in the fact that COD's always been based on, like, storylines, whether it be Aches versus Nadeshot, whether it's been just stuff like that. That's good, but it has to come serious at some point. And when you get serious, everyone has the same answer. From my point, except Doug on his own. But again, I think, yes, you can bring him on as a content, but like, we had 12 people draft. 12 people. And no one picked him.
I mean, he wasn't on our player list for obvious reasons, because he's been retired for a year. But someone said, he has retired several times.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird to say he's that.
I think it's risky for a franchise to pick him up.
It's definitely risky for a franchise to pick him up. It's more risky now that he's made all this drama around him. Yeah.
I love his determination, his hunger for it. It's great, but I think there was one tweet that kind of pissed me off a little bit because it kind of undermined everyone else as a pro player that they weren't grinding. I think Blast replied to it. It was like, "This is really disrespectful, Parasite," and I was like, kind of got a point actually there, because.
What was the tweet? Sorry, I can't remember.
It was before this kind of all kicked off. It was just like, I'm so hungry, I'm ready for it, and it was great. But it kind of put it into the perspective for that he's more hungry and he's more willing to grind than anyone else. And people, I think it was like the likes of Machilla and stuff were like, well, I'm not being funny, but I've been grinding the amateur scene or Llama God for the last 3 years. Like, I've not seen you there. And it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Someone said he said that he has an offer into a starting position. Do we believe it?
Why has he said that?
I don't know.
That'd be a
good idea.
I'd like to know the general manager of the.
For the most part, we've been speaking to people who we know who could potentially be going on to be GMs or know that have been offered jobs, and for the most part, it's been all right.
Oh, in his stream yesterday, he said it.
Did he really?
Apparently, said he has. He has a full-time roster slot, but I don't understand. I mean, unless he means that they've picked him up and they haven't specified, and then we're like, "Oh yeah, you're on our first team, Doug," and it's actually of 7 players. because I just can't. I mean, if you were approaching building a team, like with all the players out there, all the talent that we've got, everybody do well at champs. There's open bracket teams you can take a look at if you fancy bringing in some, fast SMGs or whatever. And we've highlighted some of them. He has 4 offers, 1 starting, 3 bench. I mean, I don't know where Doug is either, by the way. But I'd love to hear this. I'd love to hear this. Well,
If he's watched your other podcast, he'll watch this one as well, and it's a shame. But
sure. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be an hour-long video on just all the shit I said a minute ago.
Hi, Doug's YouTube fans.
But I don't think anything I've said here is wrong. I think there's logic to back up every point I've made, and it's upsetting that he can't answer these questions. I was ready to ask him, what his campaign for being on a franchise was.
Because that's what I wanted. When I heard he was going to be on it, I was thinking we're going to get 1 or 2 answers. One of them is going to be the very straight, yes, I deserve a first slot because I'm simply good enough, which I think a lot of eyebrows would have been raised. Or the second of, realistically, maybe I could get a sub role and I could bring something to the team. I've got championships. And just have a more realistic outlook on it. And that's what I wanted to see, which one he actually is. Because I don't think it's unfair for him to think that he can be a sub. As a player, as himself, he's got it. Like he has the right to be like, I can be a sub. I've won tournaments before. Like I can be a sub. That's realistic. But I do think it's a little overconfident, shall we say?
Yeah.
I mean, that's Doug Martin.
Well, that's Doug, and the whole he'll run for president, or whether he becomes a gym.
I'll win champs,
like I'll win champs. He just has that overachieving aspect, which they kind of shoot for.
I think. Look, I mean, look what somebody said in the chat. Like, who is going to want to team with him after this? That it's not just GMs want to pick him up. Who's like? Imagine if a GM comes to you, say I'm Slasher, and so somebody's like, "We got you on your team, right? We're going to bring Doug in." You're gonna be like, well, fuck no! Terminate my contract instantly. Like, absolutely not. Like,
imagine the team.
Probably that easy.
Starting lineup: Ricky, Blast.
But a lot of people are going to be joining these teams based on who else is in the team. Like, you aren't just going to blindly go in.
Some are. Some of these pros are looking to secure the bag, and they don't.
Well, maybe, but at the same time, it's just
as we well know.
For the most part, you would think a lot of people want a good team, and nobody's want to go on a team with Doug after all this shit. Like, it's just the truth, unfortunately for him. He has not painted himself in a good light. Full stop.
Yeah.
Even more so for not coming on.
He's not entitled to a franchising spot, but he thinks he deserves a spot on the bench. Yeah, potentially.
See, that I'm okay with. I'm perfectly okay with.
But that's being perfectly honest here. The only reason we can even say that is because of his following.
Yeah, based on skill alone, nope, not once. There are so many more amateur players you could go and pick up who are up and coming and give them a shot instead of just having a go at Doug, who is probably not going to be good enough.
I don't know if he doesn't realize that. Like if I was to say names, let's just say, for example, like Kleenex.
Yeah, guys like
that. Certain names, or I'm just trying to think. There's probably a handful of names he doesn't even know of.
Mind Freak players who had a decent year. Like, there's so many.
If he's still thinking about last year, then he's thinking, oh, there's plenty of spots going around. Then he probably thinks, yeah, I'm still in with a shot. But this year has been the biggest competition in COD, and there's been so many up-and-coming players. Even, I mean, where was Dylan last year?
Yeah. Sandman said, if he's good at the game, why would he not deserve a spot? First of all, we don't know if he's good at the game. And we don't know that because he hasn't competed recently. Last competed in World War II. Yeah. So that's another year. And before that, he retired again. And he hasn't won a championship since 2015. So it's a bit difficult for you to go, oh, what if he's good at the game? Well, what if he's good at the game? He could be good at the game, but you need to do the come up again. Like, basically, the only reason anybody's looking at it here right now is, Sentinel's got this great brand around him. But here's another thing that made me think, maybe he's not kind of 100% serious on all of this. I'm not sure. So if he did join a franchise, I'm not sure they would still be okay with him being phase censor. And Doug, bearing in mind his social media reach and how much you can sell that social media reach for, would he be okay with a low-tier contract to be on that org? Yeah, and if you can believe it, he didn't show up, even though an hour ago he said he would.
He said he was going to be here, Ant, but he's not.
Oh dear. I mean, this is just like. This is just. I don't want to say it's backing up claims, but it doesn't look good, does it? Like, I know it's. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we're paying them to come on or any shit, but holy hell, like. If there's ever a time you should come on and be defending yourself, and after you said you would,
And
now.
clickbaited.
Technically, and you didn't get clickbaited because
we've been tweeting saying he ain't here.
yeah.
Doug's actually clickbaited for us, which in essence,
Yeah.
he's nailed it for you.
I mean, Doug's played us here straight. He's straight to taking DMs. I don't know. I'm on tweet taking those. How do I don't know how to check. But I don't know. Doug sent to Martin his jet ski out, mate. Like, there's nothing I can really do about it. He was supposed to be on. He had the link. He's had the link from 3 of us or 2 of us. Sorry.
Nameless has been. I think Nameless was playing like duos with Doug. Maybe it was the other Doug. I don't know. Nameless might have
He's
some
on
inside
Doug as
info for us.
And you know, you probably got his phone number. Ring him. Just make sure he's not recording it. That's a good point. We haven't even talked about that. You know, Doug's history.
Oh, God.
Oh my god! I kind of don't want to bring up that. There's a lot. Even
Of course there is.
I'm not going to go into it. That's for you to do if you want.
Like, I mean,
I think Ant might be
Doug
right
once
there.
wore a wire. Doug's been accused of cheating, like in the terms of the GB things back in the day.
I think Ant might be right for clarity with the YouTube. Nameless put in, listen, bro, call a spade a spade. Doug is finessing all of us, and I respect it. All PR is good PR. I think Ben's been saying the same sort of thing the whole time we've been talking about it. This is what he wants.
Yeah. Oh, I have DMs. He's coming on.
Oh, is he coming now?
Here comes Doug Sensor Martin.
Tun, get your edit on. Look at Tun edited away.
Christ.
Tun, what is it? You use, Tun? Tun uses Photoshop or whatever it is.
Mate,
He's new to
I've got
it.
HTML
We've waited.
codes. Don't
We've waited.
worry.
How many views has this got?
200.
50,000.
The miners like delete the VOD.
All right.
Right, we'll wait on them coming in. Either way.
All right, quick,
That was
clickbait.
11 seconds ago. 11 seconds ago. The clickbait may be over in any second now.
Drum roll.
I mean, this is. I've just told him to click the link. This could be good because now we get to answer these questions. Oh man!
I'm gonna keep the topic.
Admittedly, this should have been 40 minutes ago. We've already dissected everything about Doug, and now we get
40 minutes. Late is better than never.
All right. So this is what happened when Doug is supposed to come in. He'll say what he's got to say first, and then we'll ask him the questions that we want the answers to, and kind of let him. You know, we'll discuss his points of view, and I'll throw the exact same things at him that I've already spoken about. But we'll see. I mean, if he's finessed me again, I'm going to be so annoyed. I'm going to be so annoyed. It's a link, Big Dougie.
He's clickbaiting you again. He's out on the jet ski.
There's no way. There's no way.
I just love the Twitch chat. Sometimes Twitch chat is the worst thing to ever be happen in this world, but sometimes it is the best.
Like, is he going to turn face cam on? I don't know. I don't know what Doug is currently doing. He has the link.
I'm not prepared for that.
There we go.
There we go.
Right. Doug, are you there?
Oh, you'll have to change his mic and everything on this.
No problem. All right. Well, I can confirm. Someone has
You can hear
joined.
us, Doug. It's in the bottom left of the window. Mic and video.
Yeah.
I always struggle with this. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh.
Oh, we've got his PS4 screen.
Yep. Doug is showing us his PS4.
There he is.
He's clickbait. He's clickbaiting
There we
into
go.
watching his stream. He's clickbaited into watching his stream.
Imagine that.
Hey, can y'all hear me through this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Doug.
So you hear me through this mic? Yo, I have to take accountability real quick. I'm talking to you in these DMs, Bryce, about how I'm always on time, and here I am an hour late. So I'm an asshole.
Yeah. We've covered that, Doug. All right. So
We
this is
roasted you for that already, Doug. That's fine.
we roasted you for that already. All right, so Doug, this is kind of the way I thought this was working because you put out a lot of videos and there's been a lot of back and forth on Twitter and stuff. So, first of all, we want to talk to you about, what you want to come in and kind of say from the off about this whole situation because we've already been talking about it for about half hour. So where are you currently in terms of I don't know, what is exactly the last thing that happened? I think you've been going back and forth with like Blast and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's really simple. So I made a video recapping the last 5 years of my COD career, and I'm not the only guy, all right? I'm not the only guy who had to deal with crap like this. But, I wanted to recap that and just kind of put my foot down and just say, listen, guys, like, I want to stand up for myself. I have nothing to hide. The shit I went through was kind of lame, and I just wanted people to know that. And there's nothing wrong with just telling your story, I think. I think it's important to connect with people and tell them how you feel. So after I did that video, I still to this day, since last year, get these stupid tweets about this jet ski thing, man. So I'm like, you know what? These kids, like, they get away with too much. I'm putting my foot down again. I'm just going to say what's on my mind. If these, like, that team was the worst team I've ever been a part of in my history of COD. I came back to COD when I was 19 with apathy, and him and I never did any of the behavior that these kids were doing last year when I was playing with them. And they were 19 at the time too. Like, we were a lot more mature and a lot more respectful to people than these kids ever were. And it was the worst experience. And it really just mentally took a lot on me. It was a really, really dark time in my life, I felt. And I never spoke about it. And I didn't even plan on it. But after seeing for a year tweets about me missing practice to go on a jet ski, and after me making that video standing up for myself for the past 5 years, I said, you know what? No, this thing also, sorry about my dogs, this thing also really bothered me. Hey, Bobby,
I'm not sure you can hear me at the moment, but all right.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
This also really bothered me too, because I don't want to say every single player was like that or every single team is going to be that way, but I think it's very important if someone's going to go out there and like make a live stream and lie about it. It's one thing to tell players behind closed doors and spread lies. It's another thing to like go out on a live stream and do it, because then you have people like Chance, who's involved in the CWL, who's an analyst, and people like you guys or fans or even franchises, they're just going to hear these false little lies being spread, and it's just going to taint you and hurt your reputation. So for me, it's just about pride, man. It's about pride and just standing up for what's right.
Do you not think this is done worse for you though? Because here's the thing, Doug. Right, this is what we were kind of bringing up. First of all, like you said about your story and it did look a lot like finger pointing, Doug. It did look a little bit like I'm not the place I want to be because of these other people. And I know a few pros myself were unhappy with that because a lot of people, like you said, have had these issues before. Do you not think it was maybe not worth dragging that all up for franchising, especially considering the feedback you got?
I don't care. I mean, franchises are going to sign me if they want to sign me. They're not going to sign me if they don't want to sign me. If I want to get dressed up like a clown and put an L on my forehead, it won't change the fact if I get signed or not. I speak directly to owners. I represent myself. I know where I'm going to go. I know what I'm going to do. For me, it's about just doing the right thing for me. And if people want to see that as me being a psychopath or some sort of like immature, disrespectful person, it is what it is. I mean, people could draw their own conclusions. But for my own sanity and for like what I believe in, I just don't want to allow little 19-year-old kids to say that I skip practice for jet skiing. That's like specifically the point and the issue. You could talk about KDs, you could talk about toxicity in teams, because this is what happens in a lot of Call of Duty teams, but I just don't want to be a part of anything like that. I don't want to be involved with those types of players. I don't want to be involved in those types of teams. And to be honest with you, I don't need to play COD anymore. And I want to do it because I love it. That's what it's about for me. So I really don't care about what anyone thinks about me, to be honest with you, man. And no disrespect to other players too, because I know these kids grind the game day in and day out. They played all of Black Ops 4. They played all of World War II, which I was a part of. They played all of IW. They played all of Black Ops 3. Yeah. And I don't want to step on anybody's toes by any means, but I want to be a player and a starter just like anyone else. And it's not up to them to decide if I play or not. It's up to franchises that decide that, with all due respect. So you let the franchises who cut the checks make the moves and let everything work from there. And then when it's time to play and you sign these contracts, you play, and the best man wins, right? That's how competition works.
Yeah. But for me, sorry, go on, Doug.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
so that's one of the things a lot of people have been arguing about, Doug, and myself included. Right now, fair play to you for who you are and your brand and everything around you. And I've said before, I fully believe that franchises would pick you up, Doug, because of who you are, not your playing career. And I mean that in the fact that, you have retired more than once. Your last tournament wasn't the greatest performance from you. And then we go even further back, your last championship was in 2015. Why have you gone the route saying that, that you're going to beat everybody single out rather than focusing on that you're a great asset for any franchise? Because you are an asset for any franchise in terms of content, in terms of Call of Duty history, in terms of brand, and the fact that you could get into a sub spot. But it seems that you've rather gone the option of going, look, I'm going to win you a championship, which, being perfectly honest, Doug, not a lot of people believe at this point.
I don't care what people believe, Bryce.
Can
With all due respect, man, I mean, I could give you situations with specific teams and players who have done the same thing. I mean, I just go back in my career. I won nationals in 2011, and I took a year off of competing in Black Ops 2, and then I came back in the beginning of Ghost, made a team from scratch, kind of just like today. And my team was immediately the best team in the game. We dethroned Complexity. We had the number 1 seed, the champs. We ended up getting 4th. I joined FaZe, won 2 majors with them. It immediately got dropped. So that's the way I see that. And I understand that analysts, you guys, casters, fans, players see it as, well, I grind this game every day. I play 12 hours a day. Well, I have the exact same passion to do that. And there's a lot of players in Black Ops 4. I'm never going to single people out, but there's a lot of players in Black Ops 4 who have been around for years who have never had success and still haven't to this day won a championship, but then they get $20,000 contracts just based off the fact that they played Black Ops 4. And for me, it's like I don't have to play because I have other things in my life. So I'm fortunate, and I know that people are going to resent that. People are going to hate me for it. And I know, like, I'm just not an idiot. Like, I'm going to do what's best for my life, and I'm going to do what's best for me. And if I want to play, I'm going to play. So, you know, I'm just going to sell myself as high as I can. And if people hate that and they hate the fact that I'm allowed to take time off to live a good life, that's on them. I can't control that.
I don't think that the issue is you taking time off to do whatever you want. And the perfect truth is, one of the issues with you at the moment, Doug, is the fact that you don't have to play. We all know you're doing well for yourself. We all know that you are Doug Sensor Martin. Nobody can take that away. And that's one of the people saying, you have retired before. If a franchise takes a punt on you against another player who's up and coming and doesn't have your infrastructure that is currently in place, infrastructure you've worked for, I'll give you that. What's going to say you're not going to retire if you don't like the game in 5 months? What's going to say in 6 months? They're taking you on your word. And I think that's why you got the lashback over the dedication thing more than anything else. Because, and not only that, Doug, and obviously this is your brand and so on and so forth, but do you not think you muddied the waters a little bit with your antics in terms of like the clown stuff? And I know you were doing it for the memes and the banter, but we're talking about franchises and professional business people here picking you up. I can't tell whether you want to be picked up as a serious Call of Duty player or as a brand, because you're trying to do both, and I'm not sure it's the best thing for it. I don't know. I just want to know what you want, Doug. I think that's the problem I'm having right now. I want to know what you want, where you see yourself going into a franchise, and what you were doing.
So you could disagree, anyone could disagree, but I strongly believe that if you put me on a great team with great players, it would immediately be a success and it would win.
As a first-line starter,
absolutely. You could take my dog and put him on a great team, and my dog could get a team placing top 4. I think it's about a team. It's not about individuals or specific talent. You need a good mix of J-caps where they're not going to drop 1.3 KDs at events. You need a good mix of dashies who are going to drop 1.3s. You need a culmination of players, and it's not always about having the most talented players, because I could go all day about this. You talk about Optic Gaming at playoffs. You have Dashy, TJ Holly, who made a great name for himself in World Tour, one of the greatest young talents out there. Dashy, the most amazing young talent out there, undisputed in my eyes. Scump, one of the greatest COD players of all time. Crimsix, the greatest. Karma, the second greatest, in my opinion. These guys didn't win a single match. You look at Gen G, all 5 of those players have had 0 success outside of Nagafin getting second at 3 tournaments in his career. And these guys are consistently just balling out. Now, granted, at champs, it didn't work out for them. It just shows, you look at World War II with Evil Geniuses winning champs. They had no business. We're scrimming them every day online for 10 hours a day. They were good, but we were better than them. And then we got top 16. They won the whole event. Optic Gaming got top 24. It's not always about the individual talents. And when you go from a new Call of Duty title every single year, you go from manually regenning your health by pressing L1 to a game that's similar to Call of Duty Ghosts. As a player who's played Call of Duty for more of my life than I've been on this planet, I know how the cycle works every year. And as a player who took a year off, came back and had success immediately, I understand that it's a fresh start every year. What you did the last year doesn't matter, with all respect to the players, because keep in mind, these players, this is their livelihood, this is their job, and this is their career. And I was in that exact same position 5 years ago, and I wanted to make a name for myself, and I wanted to do big things, and I was able to. And I don't want to take that away from anybody, because everyone should have that opportunity. Everyone who really wants to win and puts in the time should have that opportunity to do it. And it's all respect to those guys. I just want my fair share of it too. And if people don't like the fact that I took time off, which wasn't really, again, my fault. I mean, I kind of got blacklisted after 2014 for 3 years. And then in World War II, when I forced myself into the scene, I had a decision to either stay on Lightning Pandas or take a guaranteed league spot, which I took. So that's my decision. I did that. That was on me. I could have said no, and I could have been on LP. Who knows what would have happened? But that team was just a really toxic situation. And in going into Black Ops 4, I even had an opportunity. I put together the Evil Geniuses roster, and then they shafted me for Tyler Fellow last second. The entire team didn't do anything the whole year. and they all had to go their own separate ways. So I could have played with other players in Black Ops 4, but I honestly didn't want to play with players who I felt would make my mental state of mind horrible. You got to be around good people and good guys, and I'd rather just not play. Just being honest with you.
Can I just?
Yeah, go on. I was going to say you jump in now.
Yeah, I was going to say for myself, from kind of hearing what you said in regards to, it sounds like you truly believe like you should or could be picked up as a starting lineup player. Is that right? Like going into franchising.
I believe absolutely yes. I believe that every single player you could list could have success if they have the right guys around them. And every single player who's the greatest, I mean, you could take Crim6 and like you could put Crim6 on my complexity team, it wouldn't change anything. No disrespect. It's just the team dynamic. It's not about singling out one person for one thing. It's not singling out me for having the worst KD or Blastful for making up lies about a jet ski or deck. Like it's not. It's a team thing. Right? Like it's very important that people understand. And you guys know this just as well as anyone else. Call of Duty is a team game, and that's the thing I love about Call of Duty. I love team games. I love getting guys on the same page to work toward a common goal and win. And it all depends on the dynamic of the team. That's how a team can win.
I think. I completely agree in the sense that I think a lot of players or a lot of fans in particular look at putting 5 people together with the top 5 highest KDs, and we all know that that's not going to work. It's probably going to be a disaster and blow up. Like it's not going to happen. I think the problem is over the time that maybe you've taken out of COD has probably been kind of the most competitive COD that we've seen. Basically, it's grown each year and year.
Absolutely, and World War II was very competitive. Black Ops 4 was very competitive.
World War II, Black Ops 4, and I think. For example, like the Gen G guys, even players like Temp, never won a championship. You've won multiple. But I think there's going to be people that will look to snag up these type of players who have consistently, let's say, been placing top 4, or the Gen G guys getting 3 seconds. And I think they instantly, without a shadow of a doubt, kind of like our draft went, grab those players before they would grab someone like yourself. And I can see why, because I was in that draft. I chose those players first. And that was without me kind of thinking of the risks of you retiring again. Like I tried to put it in the perspective of Senta comes back, he gives it his all. Like this is him 100% in because we've been seeing you grind your stream. You're fully in on COD, which is great. But I do see why those are being picked up or talked about over yourself. And I think the one thing that I think kind of rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way was your sense of drive, which I think goes into anything, whether it be YouTube content or COD. It kind of made others sound like they didn't try as much. I think it was, I don't know if it was Mochilla or someone replied saying like, I've been grinding like the amateur scene for like 3 years and you don't see me kind of complaining. It was just to kind of get your take on those guys kind of, do you deserve it more over those people kind of thing? Is it the 5 championships you've got, or is it the experience you've got? Like, what is it that would put you kind of in that roster before these kind of guys who've been grinding for the last 2 or 3 years?
If I was to be on a starting roster, it would be specifically because of my brand and how I can speak to owners and players. I think I'm a very great communicator, and I think experience does matter a lot too. I've been in this scene since 2008, 2009 as a pub stomper, #1 on the leaderboards in the public worlds out of millions of kids who would play COD. No one played more COD than me when I was 15. 18 years old, winning tournaments. I mean, I've done it my whole life, and it's no disrespect to players who have grinded these past few years and I didn't. I'm privileged to not have to play the game. These players are kind of forced to because I was in that shoe too. It's like, do you go to college, get your degree, or do you try to get a nice salary with the team and make ends meet and do that? And if you're going to make ends meet and do that, you're all in, right? So that's how that is. And I don't believe that I've ever said in the 2 YouTube videos that I deserve anything more than anybody else. I think that's kind of this narrative that people just try to run with because I'm talking about the passion that I have for something. I don't know, man. I mean, I retired and came back so many times because if you watch that 41-minute YouTube video with the 5 years, like I said, I won at the highest level versus the greatest players in the history of Call of Duty who are still to this day winning. They haven't changed as players. They're the exact same dudes. They're just older. And then I got forced to not play. It was either like stop building your brand and stop building your future to pursue your dream of playing COD and play on any top team because I could have because I was on the top, or take a step back and build your brand. And I knew that I wanted to build a brand because everybody wants to build a brand. And I knew I wanted to compete, but I couldn't have it both ways. For whatever reason it was, I just couldn't have it both ways. So I said, you know what, let me build this brand. And when the time is right, I'll come back. And that was World War II. And halfway through the year, I joined a team that just really was depressing and sad to be a part of. And that's just how it works sometimes. It's just always the choices you make. But I mean, I'm just in a good situation where I don't have to play, and I want to. But I just want to make sure that whatever situation that I join, whether I'm a substitute player on a roster or whether I'm a starter on a roster, that I'm going to be around like-minded individuals like myself, not little kids who sleep and I have to call your mom to play COD. I mean, I just can't deal with that at this point in my life. It's unacceptable behavior, and you don't have to be an 18-year-old kid to be that way. You can be 25 and still be sleeping and
without a doubt.
You know, it's not trying to shun little kids. I think some of these kids like Simp and Abizi are some of the most respectful, professional, amazing talents we have today. And that's the greatest thing about COD. It's expanding. Players are able to make more money, and they're going to take it more seriously. And I definitely, I mean, if you look at my track record, I've always been on time for any scrim. I'm sorry about this. I was late. But in terms of like contracts and fulfilling a contract, I'm a robot. I mean, you tell me to do something and I'm going to do it to a T. And I think people think that because I retired so many times that I don't take the game seriously. The reason I would retire was because I wasn't happy with the teams that I would be on. And Replays did this too. Back in, I believe it was IW. Replays retired at the end of AW.
After he was analyst. He kind of went away, came back.
I mean, he's kind of like in the same spot. Replays in Black Ops 3 didn't play. He was like an analyst. He was a coach. And then he took my spot on FaZe because Zoom and Attach wanted him over me because they had a history with him. Guy didn't play Call of Duty in 2 years, but he won a major in World War II. So it just I could go on and on about that. I mean, it's all about the situation that you're in, and it's a lot about politics and making friends with like-minded people who could thrive together. And I think that's how that's success.
Last one from myself was: is there, and without naming names or organizations, franchise, whatever, like, is there pros that are reaching out to you? And again, you can just say you don't want to answer if you wish, but is there people that want to play with you? You know, people kind of saying, you know, the comeback of Sensor, like, I want him on my team. Like, it's an asset that people don't online might think of KDs, but pro players are going, forget what people think, I want Doug, kind of thing. Or is
Absolutely.
that kind of okay?
Yeah. It's you know, like, I mean, I'm all in when I do things. I'm either 100% or I'm 100% out. That's why I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna be a player that just teeters around and just gets top 16 at events like World War II. It's either I'm all in and I'm on a team where I believe in the players and they believe in me, or I'm just not playing. It's, you know, that's just how I feel.
So
and of course,
go on.
Certain players that are younger, there's certain players that I don't have relationships with that see the things that you guys are talking about, and they're like, I don't want anything to do with this guy, which is completely fine. And then there's also players who have known me for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years for some of these guys who know me and who have been around me and who have played against me and played with me, who have lost to me or have beat me, that know what I bring to a team, and they want me. And that's just how it is. It's a giant league that's expanding. There's a bunch of players, a bunch of people with different opinions, a bunch of people who have different ways they want to go about their business, and all the power to them. But, you know, I just like to be very vocal with what I like to do.
But do you not feel that you're at a point now where you have taken a slight breakout and sort of, you know, your past performances weren't necessarily up at the top, you know, I said in World War II, etc. Do you not feel like you need do you not need to like prove yourself again? Do you not feel that?
I believe you always have to prove yourself. I'll never forget, Ton, when I was on the top, and I can't believe the thing I did in the finals versus Formal, Scump, and Crimp. Getting the first blood on Crimp, 5-4, Game 10, World Star 2-piecing Formal and Scump, winning the map, winning the tournament, making the play. And it wasn't just me. Aches won a 1v1. Slasher was the best player of the whole tournament. Apathy did this thing. It's a team effort. But I can't believe the things I did to win the tournament. And I never will forget that players still – immediately after that didn't even have respect for me as a player. And it's always like that with any team to this day. Players that win that are on the top. I mean, I'm sure there's players, for example, Clayster kind of took a backseat at champs, and, you know, his players played a lot better around him. He was not the best player in his team. And I'm sure there's players out there like Clay's not the same. He's not as good as he used to be 3 years ago. And it's like, it kind of just depends on your team dynamic.
Prestini now. Prestini just won champs and playoffs, and people are still kind of give Prestini a hard time. He's just won back-to-back events. And I kind of,
but Prestini isn't taking a year off.
No. But
this
what
wasn't
I'm
5 years ago.
I'm talking about people making it, completing it, like doing whatever, and people still questioning them. But again, I think the problem is there's so much kind of, I don't know if baggage is the same word, but there's so much history with yourself, Doug, which, is it worth taking that kind of risk as a franchise? Is it worth going, you know what, he is worth a shot? And I don't know, like, what players. That's why I asked kind of where.
I actually just got a text message from a pro player that's been great over the last few years. He said, best of luck this next year, Doug. You're getting a lot of slack, but when we teamed, you were a good teammate. Best of luck, and I hope to play again, teammate. I literally just got that 1 minute ago. It's all politics, man. Like, players are going to have their opinions. They're either going to love you or they're going to hate you. And I think, like, with Pristini, is Pristini the best player in United? No. Is Pristini a chump? No. Pristini is a world champion. Pristini is a three-time champion. He won playoffs, back-to-back events. He's a great player. And every player that plays in this league, whether you are the worst KD or the best KD, is a great Call of Duty player. It's all politics, and it's all about team dynamic and chemistry. And if you have the right chemistry, you come together at the right time, you perform on that weekend of that tournament, you're going to win the tournament. It's just as simple as that. And again, just going to that point on the opposite side of the spectrum, Optic Gaming, every single player on that team is way better. Like, I don't want to say way better because the skill gap isn't really that much, but every player on that team is better than a Pristini. But who won champs? Pristini won champs. He's the guy. Optic wanted that. They didn't get it. Pristini got it. He beat Optic, It's all about your team chemistry. That's really what it comes down to. So for me in World War II, I had one of the worst KDs. I don't believe I was one of the worst players. I do believe I'm a clutch player that can win. And I thought in World War II I could have won. Like Aches and Apathy got top 28 at Birmingham. I knocked them out myself. I knocked out him, Aches, Enable, and Nameless. And Enable got second to Aches and Apathy, and it was completely different situations. Enable ended up playing with Kenny Lamar. And who was their fourth? Pharaoh. And then Aches and Apathy played with Silly and Assault. And Assault got MVP. They won. It's all about getting the right group of guys on the same page together that have good complementary playing styles. It's not about what your KD was in Black Ops 4. It's not about how many years you played the last 3 years. None of that is relevant to going into a new Call of Duty title. It's all about getting the right guys together. And I think that's the one thing that is taken for granted, and I think people just want to jump the gun with team stats. I mean, on Lightning Pandas, I had a 1.2, and I was by far the best player. And then I go to Complexity, and I'm having like a 0.8 KD. And it's all about your team dynamic. That's just literally what it is at the end of the day.
I agree with you on the team dynamic, but I feel like I disagree on how you perform like in recent CODs. It has to be a big barometer as to where people are picking.
I think that it all depends on your team chemistry, man. I mean, I've been on so many different teams. I've won on 4 different teams or 3 different Call of Duties. I've been around since day one. I've been the best player on the team. I've been the worst player on the team multiple times. At the end of the day, I think players are players. I don't think that they really grow or change as players. I mean, the game is so simple and repetitive. It's all about just doing the exact same muscle mechanic every single day and then showing up on the day of the tournament. It's just as simple as that. There's no extra like crazy thing. You could play for 12 hours a day and place dead last. You could play for 3 hours a day and win the championship. It's all about how you show up with your team and your quality of practice and the group of guys you have around you.
Doug, I have to. I've been quiet letting the questions, but I have to pull you up on a couple of things here. How do I put this? So you spoke a lot about your place in the first team roster. And I think what you said that correct was about your brand. Unfortunately, I think that's the last correct thing you said on that, because you said I believe I bring. Essentially, you said I bring good vibes to the team, and you can win with that team, and that you don't believe stats are relevant. Unfortunately, we live in a place where teams are going to be banking on you to bring them wins next year. And I don't know why you're saying like you've got the magic in that sense to create a team that can win regardless without the stats to back it up. Now, don't get me wrong, Doug. I fully believe you have a personality, a driven personality, but you said about the vibes on the team, and yet everything we've seen in the news right now, apart from the DM you just got, is saying that sometimes it wasn't the best to play with you in previous years. So it seems to me like you don't want people to look at any sort of stats for your career. You want them to look on your good vibes. If that's the case, why not go onto a franchise and beat people out, Doug? Why don't you just go in there and show them that you've still got the gun skill on a lower contract as a sub? Would you be prepared to take it was essentially a second-tier contract, a little bit lower, bearing in mind how it will impact your brand, something we haven't spoke about here, because I don't know what franchises are doing in terms of you being with FaZe, in terms of how you have to brand yourself. I know this is actually something that people haven't spoken to you about. Because
it's irrelevant. I've already spoken to Tommy from FaZe, and I said since day one of 2 years ago, if I have to leave FaZe to plan a franchise, I'll leave.
Okay, that's something that
we're gonna have to go leave. It's just that simple. I want to do what I want to do. I want to play COD. I want to win. Throughout my entire career, since day one of 2011 to 2014, those 3 years, I've had control of every roster I've been on, and I've won a major on every single one of those games. And I hand selected every single one of those rosters. World War II, after not playing for 3 years, I was forced to play with players that were just not good, because I don't have any leverage, and I built up some leverage through the season, 6 months in, to join Lightning Pandas, to get top 8, to beat FaZe, who won the playoff the next weekend. And then it was either play on Lightning Pandas or join Complexity. And I didn't have control over the Complexity roster. I was forced to play with those players. We didn't see things on the same page. We all had our fair share.
Have control this year, though. Do you think you'll have control this year? Because like it's
I can't answer that. I have no idea. I can't answer that for you, but I'm just going to make sure whatever team that I join, if I'm a starter on a team, which is a possibility, or if I'm a sub player, if I'm going to be a substitute, I want to make sure I'm a sub for players that I believe I will have a chance to play with, that I could have success with. Because like I said, I stand by. You could highlight my stats, man. It doesn't matter to me. 0.8 is 0.8, man. Theory one.
It's not just your stats. It's not just your stats, Doug. It's the fact that like your position is unique. You are a unique person going into this franchise in terms of where you've positioned yourself, right? The worry for some people is you have some multiple times you don't need to play. If you get dropped down into a sub spot, Doug, is that hunger going to be there to beat them out? Is it because bearing in mind, you're going to be on what could be a lower contract going into an org. You've got your brand going on. You've already said you've made the choice in the past for brand. Now, has that choice flipped now, and now you want to compete again? And the brand, while I don't think it actually would take a sidestep, would you be prepared to put that slightly further back in your priority list to beat somebody back into that first team slot, Doug? Because that's a big.
My priority is building my brand and my franchise into a $1 billion franchise. I think way bigger than petty little $50,000 contracts. I don't give a shit about the contract. You can give me a $1 contract, man. I don't need money. I don't care about money. I literally would tell, like, if I play with Apathy, I would literally rather have Apathy take my $20,000 a month if I'm a starter, so he can build his family in Maria when he's growing up in these next 5 years. I don't need money. Me and Brian came up from absolutely nothing. I was able to be fortunate and build this brand. He wasn't able to have the success. He was able to find success by winning multiple world championships and building, salaries and prize pool money. So I'm so happy for him. And I told him, and anyone else, I mean, I don't care about the money. Like, money's going to come. Like, I really care about winning and just building something into a long-term sustainable franchise, like kind of like the Dallas Cowboys in sports.
But that's what I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Doug, before we get too further off topic. But that's what I'm saying. Ignore any contract you get. If you get into a position where, the new game comes out and you're not having the best of time in the first 3 months, Doug, you get moved into a lower spot on that roster. Like, you basically become the 8th, 9th, whatever player. Are you going to be happy in that position to grind back up again? Bearing in mind, it could take you 6 months to get back into a first team position.
Absolutely.
That's the question I wanted to ask, because it's difficult for some people to realize that if you're in that position and, you're not being on main stage, you don't get to play at every single league play game event, people are going to wonder if that's going to be your biggest priority now, or just you're going to go do whatever you want. And you've also spoken about this $1 billion brand thing. Are you hoping to get a share in a franchise, or are you hoping to become like a face of a franchise or whatever, because depending on how long COD careers go, to get to $1 billion is not realistic in the next 10 years.
I want to be the best, most famous Call of Duty player of all time, bigger than Nadeshot ever did. He inspired me to come back and leave college. I left college with no money in my bank account to do this, and I did it. And then again, I literally did it at the highest level, and I got immediately dropped the same exact night. Do you guys understand how that makes me feel? A guy who's as driven as I am, a guy who did everything by the books, who was a perfect teammate, who was a perfect player. I did my role. I won. We won. We did it. I was growing. I was scaling, and I get dropped. Like, do you understand how that makes someone like me feel? Someone who has this big ambition. So I think it will all work itself out. If I'm the 8th man on the roster, I deserve to be the 8th man on the roster. I'm grateful to even have opportunities to be a substitute player. I'm not entitled to be a starter, but if I could be a starter, I'm going to be a starter. Who's going to say no to that opportunity?
No, I agree with that.
As hard as I possibly can. And if it doesn't happen and I get a sub role, I'll be grateful for it and I'll work for it. And whatever happens from there happens from there, It's pretty simple to me.
Just thinking like next year is obviously so different in terms of like the team's built before we go into the game. There's subs, there's, potentially up to 10-man rosters. Obviously in the past, let's say, FaZe gave you, whether it be FaZe Black or FaZe whatever, said, Sensor, pick your team, and you went out and picked those other, at the time, 3 players, and you can win with them. Like, I don't doubt that you could do that again if you got your pick of those players.
I can do it right now with even not top-tier players immediately.
But that's what I'm kind of worried about next year. Let's just, for example, say it was Envy in their current situation in Dallas. Like, they make their team. You're part of it, but they're making the team and it's not the players that you want and it's maybe not the players you believe in. I think you've said a few times, like, if you're with the players you believe in, the players you trust, the players that you know you can win with, but what if it's not those players because you don't have that control? What kind of... So for you, it has to be the right team, the right players to join that franchise. Otherwise, it's
I have a potential 2 starting roles, and I have guaranteed 3 substitute spots on league teams and 2 potential starting roles. All the sub spots in those league teams are players that I believe I could win with, players that I believe would believe in me, and players that I believe in as well.
Okay.
Now, I like there's players who aren't even getting picked up, which blow my mind. That if I had control over a franchise right now, I would sign in a heartbeat, and I guarantee you it would win. And there's no way I could show that other than showing it. So I'm just gonna wait and just let these top tier 1 players sign their contracts, and then kind of like Bill Belichick and the Patriots, you don't need the best superstars.
Who are you picking up, Doug? Who would you pick up if you could? What would you
right now in this current situation? If you give me control of a roster, knowing the information I know about certain players and where they're going to be, I'm picking up Methods, Aqua, Apathy, and you could give me any 5th. I just know how teams work, man.
Not the names I expected, I'll be honest.
You don't need a Dashy I play with Dashy. I was getting top 16 every single event. I played against Dashy. I made him place top 28, and he was playing with world champions and Tyler Fellow, who was getting top 3 that same exact year. You don't need to have the best talented players. I'd rather have a player who isn't entitled, and I'm not trying to say Dashy is entitled, but I'd rather have a player who doesn't have a giant ego, and I'm not going to specify names because it's just politics.
Yeah.
I'd rather play with players who have something to prove, kind of like myself, because that's how I've always been, that have something to prove, because that little extra umph is what really resonates when you play in these tournaments. Aqua blows my mind how he's not a starter right now. He's one of the most amazing players. He had a bad year on a Call of Duty where you have to press L1 to heal. I mean, I've known Aqua since 2011. He has done nothing but been an amazing COD player. The fact this kid hasn't been signed to a $20,000 contract blows my mind. The fact that Methods hasn't been signed, a Call of Duty MVP, this guy balls out. He plays COD and he shows up. These are the guys I want to be around, man. I don't want to be around entitled players, and I'm not going to sign a contract with a team that has players like that.
What if it changes while you're on there? What if it changes while you're on the roster? Because that could happen.
What do you mean? I'm sorry?
That could happen. Like if you signed up with a specific team, the roster ends up changing, and you're in a first team slot, and you've got to play with people you don't like. Like, how does that affect you? Because admittedly, Doug, at that point, you don't have a voice because there's going to be a GM, a head coach, a strategic coach, a sports psychologist. And your voice, while you are going to would be a key member of the team, doesn't hold the weight of the roster decisions for admittedly a multi-million-pound business. Is that gonna be a serious issue for you, Doug? Because you said this isn't the days gone past. This isn't the last decade of COD where players basically make the rosters and everybody else in the organization can do one. This is serious business owners coming in, and you're just not going to have that control of who you want to play with. So if that does change, Doug, and they pick up people you don't like, how does that affect you as a player?
Doesn't matter. Next man up. It's just like any other sport. I think my complexity roster will never happen again. That situation, the deep things that happen behind closed doors, it's something I would probably never see out of any Call of Duty team ever again, especially moving into franchising. So I played with players that I hated. I played with Parasite. I played with Ace. I played with Karma when he went off on me for no reason. I played with Virus in 2011. Mutation, who would give me shit, and I won with those guys. I don't care about my personal feelings towards a player. I care about players who are going to get on, play at the right time, be open to criticism and listen. And I have no problems taking L's. I have no problems being a scapegoat. I've been that my entire life. I care about getting a win. And at the end of the day, most of the situations that you could be in this day and age, especially franchising, that's how every team and player is going to be thinking. So I don't need to play with every single one of my buddies. I'm actually more open to playing with players I never played with than my buddies. It's all about just having a mutual respect for people, no matter if you've known them for one day or if you've known them for 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Doug, I think we're going around in circles. You two got any more questions, Tana Momo?
I think just for me is just that you're saying about all these players that you would love to get in, etc. But I think it's just, would these guys want to play with you? That's the thing.
Yeah. I know the players, and I've known them for half of my life. I know these guys. They're gonna love you or hate you for no matter what. If you're wearing a clown outfit on Twitch, which, by the way, I did that because It Chapter 2 just came out. It's almost Halloween season. My most viewed YouTube videos.
We fully appreciate the memes.
I think no one doubts you. You're smart in the sense that your YouTube, it is what it is because of who you are, and you're very smart in that sense. I wouldn't say I've got many more questions. I think it's been kind of good. I'm glad you came on because we've got your perspective on not necessarily players you want to play with, but actually where you think you deserve to kind of slot in. The last one I think was I think you said like you've got some sub roles, you've also got some main starting ones. Would you rather, and this is more of just a random question, would you rather take a sub role on that team that I think that you said that you can maybe work your way into and win, or are you more likely to go for that starting roster where you can get yourself on main stage, get yourself in the limelight, and maybe not have as good of a chance? Is that which avenue you're looking to go down right now?
If you asked me that question last year, I would tell you I'd rather be a sub. If you ask me that question now, going through what I went through in World War II with complexity, I would rather be a starter on a team I had less confidence in for multiple reasons. One, although I say the money doesn't matter, the money would be quadruple or triple to be a starter. Two, you get more opportunities to play against other starters. Three, I would know how to handle a team, and I don't think that complexity thing would ever happen again, no matter who I'd play with. But I would understand more how to handle the situation because I've already been through something like that. So even if I don't believe in the team, or I don't believe specifically in the players, I would understand how to handle it a lot better. And I think you would get a better opportunity to land where you want to land by the time the World Championship, or whatever the case may be for this year, comes around. So I think you just get more opportunities to be a starter, and I'd definitely take that over being a sub.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Doug. Well, thanks for coming on. We're going to go to a section now called questions from the chat, and then what we'll do is we'll get your final statement from all of this. But I appreciate you coming on. I had a lot of questions. Now, I don't agree with everything you've said, and I think it's fine to have a disagreement on a few points you actually ended up making. But I feel like if we go over them again, we're just going to go around in circles. So I do appreciate you coming on very much, Doug. But we're going to get questions from the chat very quickly. This is usually a rapid-fire thing, so no massive answers, and I'll try to avoid the bigger questions. What the hell? Bloody hell, we've got a few questions coming in. First question is actually for Ton, not for you, Doug. Why have you not invited Chesney98 to your wedding, Tom?
Right, okay, we're not going to talk about this right now, Chesney.
All right. I forgot one last thing. Doug, we actually mentioned earlier something that I completely forgot to mention before we move on to questions from the chat. Someone reminded me. Thank you very much, Paralyze. So we've actually, the burner contacted us a few days ago, and he's saying he has proof to refute. And I don't really want to dig this up, I'm perfectly honest with you, but I feel like...
How long do you want to be here?
I don't want to go too much into it. But he says he has a lot of proof to refute a lot of the accusations you made onto the burner. So I just wanted to get your initial surface thoughts of that.
I know his full name, address, everything about this guy, and I won't dox him, but I know who he is, and he knows who he is, so he could say whatever he wants to say. The truth is the truth.
Okay, all right. Well, if we choose to pursue this further, we'll speak to you again, because there's a lot. If we ever go into that topic, there's so much work we have to do, legwork, as well as various sources from both your side and his, and that's why, even though we got it a few days ago, we can't really talk about.
I'm sorry. Let me just say one thing. You could be who you want to be, but you can't lie to people about your name, your age, and your job if you're trying to invest in the Call of Duty or do things with players. That's my issue with this man. If you want to be in the Call of Duty scene, be in the Call of Duty scene. But don't lie to people about your age, your name, and your profession. That is just a very, very major red flag, and that's something that nobody should have to deal with. It's that simple. Come out and say who you are, and do whatever you want to do, man. I support it. That's it.
Okay, so fair enough. A lot of these questions are asking you about your jet skis. Though the men are.
Hey, let's go. We out.
I'll put you in. Favorite color of jet ski, Doug?
Orange.
Do you prefer your hair like it is, or your previous hair?
Longer
it is. This is a very big question. We've already answered that
you
one.
Should get hair like Bryce.
No, don't ever get hair like this. This is a mistake. This isn't a haircut. It's a mistake. Why aren't you playing right now, though? Why didn't you play the last year? Somebody asked.
I had a roster that I made on EG, got shafted for fellow. My only other opportunity was play with, I'm not going to say who they are, but I only had one opportunity to play with a team that I thought would be very similar to complexity. I'd rather just get my house renovations done. At the time I broke up with my ex and I got in a new relationship. I'd rather figure my relationship out and take some time to do that. So I did it, and it's great, and I'm ready to go this year.
Fair enough. Trying to think of any other questions coming that aren't about jet skis. Let's have a quick look for you, Doug, here. 1 second. Will you be grinding the game if you don't get on a franchise, Doug? Although you've got a lot of offers. Would there ever be the possibility of you trying to go through the competitors or the open bracket or whatever they're calling the amateur side? I don't know what they're calling it at the moment. Would you ever consider trying to get back in this year through that way?
I'm going to be on a franchise. It's irrelevant.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's have a little look. Crim said on Reddit he got dropped for Doug. I don't think that's a serious comment from Crim. It might be a serious comment from Crim. I don't know.
I'm just laughing at.
I love Porter, man. I love Porter. That's one of my guys. I love Porter.
What's faster, your jet ski or Zoomer on the flank? Some of these Twitch comments are
they're man. Would Doug be down to team with Dashy again, bearing in mind everything that's happened?
You know, Dashy texted me yesterday and he apologized.
I'm guessing that's a yes then.
I was going to say, does that mean yes or no?
I told Dashy, I was like, listen, man, if you're going to attack me publicly, I'm going to defend myself publicly. It's just that simple, man. You know, the past is the past. Let it be. But just be careful about what you do moving forward, man. I love Bruce. He's a great dude. He's an amazing talent, and he's going to go far in Call of Duty, man. He's an amazing – one of the greatest Call of Duty shot I have ever seen in my life, and he's a very easy and likable guy to be around, man. I don't blame him for what he did. I don't blame any of the players. It's just a horrible situation. It's in the past, man.
Okay, fair enough. We've got basically the same question coming in again, and I feel like we've already covered this, but I'll ask you it again. But if you could just concisely put this, because I know we've argued about this already on this podcast, but I'll ask it once more because they're copy and pasting it. As someone who has been absent from the scene for a few years, how do you think franchises can justify offering you a starter position over the vast amount of pros that we currently have?
My resume. I've won more majors than 90% of the players playing right now. I've done it with so many different teams over so many different games. This Call of Duty is nothing like Black Ops 4. Anything you did in Black Ops 4 has no correlation to the new game. It's just that simple. You could slice and dice it. You could argue me on it. We could agree to disagree, but that's just how it is in my mind.
I think that's fair enough. I think it's fair enough, and I think that's probably the last of the serious questions in the chat. Doug, your last statement here, then, I suppose, in what has been a little bit of a grilling session for you. You've answered pretty much every single question we've asked. Your last kind of statement, and anything you want to say to the people watching and who will watch this VOD.
Well, like I told you guys before, I really think franchising is a great opportunity for not just myself, and that's why I want to play, but I also think it's a great opportunity for me, but for all of these competitors. I mean, these guys are really turning into professionals. All of us are very young. Some of us are 27, some of us are 18. I wish I could have been 18 years old making a $15,000, $20,000 contract for playing COD. I didn't make a single dollar when I was 18 playing COD. So it's a grateful opposition. It's a grateful opportunity for these guys, and I hope that they really make the most of it, and I hope these guys make content. If you make consistent content, YouTube videos, live streams, it's really going to help the scene more than you ever think, more than any franchise could handpick and cherry pick something for you. I've done a lot of content. I've done a lot of competing, and I really believe in my vision for making the franchise big, and I want to be able to do it, and I also want to be able to help as many people around me, because even though I could be on a team and be playing against one guy, everyone's friends behind the scenes, and I wanted to see all these guys have great, successful careers, and I think I could be a valuable asset for that too. And I just want to help, and I love the scene, and I love the people. I love you guys on the show right now, and I just want to see all of us do well, honestly.
Fair enough. All right, thank you for that, Doug. Momo, last thoughts from you.
Are we carrying on, or are we?
No. This is we're closing the show out, so we don't go. I mean, we've already taken up an hour.
The one thing, I didn't want to go on too much about it. I watched the Scump Nade Shot, that kind of podcast. The one question which I would like to get Doug's on, and on a kind of fun note, was his team of choice. I know he named a couple then, but if you could have any single 4 other players, we know it's going to be 5. Scump obviously named himself and 4 teammates. I was curious to see if any of them match. Who would your 4 teammates of any choice, no cost, no franchise, just your 4 teammates if you could pick them up right now?
I would take Slasher, Apathy, Simp, and Octane.
Okay, so it's Simp, Octane, Slasher. I think 3 of the 4. I think the other one was App was the only different one that was named. I think Formal was picked by Scump, which is interesting, I thought. But no, that's it from me. And again, thanks for Doug for coming on.
All right, Tan?
Nothing in particular, but I thought Simp only did stuff on Black Ops 4 though, Doug. I thought that game doesn't matter.
I've known Simp for years, man. I've known this guy for years. How many players could come into a COD halfway through a year and do what this kid did? He would do it on any Call of Duty. It doesn't matter what game you put this guy on. He is just a class act, grinds. I played a short thing. I played 1 series of 10s in the beginning in January, just for fun, just for the fun of it. And Simp picked me in the 10th series, and he was the most amazing, humble, nicest guy that I've ever seen in my life. And from that moment on, I just rooted for the guy, and I'm so happy. I'm proud. I could take the jet ski that I have in my backyard and take it to his backyard. He lives that close to me, so I love that kid. I want to play with him, and maybe it'll happen one day. Who knows?
Get a selfie with Simp on the jet ski. I'm down
Yeah,
for that.
God, that's a video in itself. All right. First of all, thank you, Doug, for coming on. I know it's not the easiest thing to come on shows like this where we're going to basically grill you for the last hour. And even though you were late, I do very much appreciate you coming on, and you're welcome any single time. And for anybody watching the VOD or going to be tweeting about this, obviously, many things were said here. People disagree, people would go for it, but I think it's very, very important to have this kind of discourse, right? You have to bring these points out to the action. I know myself, I rant, I get worked up about stuff, and I do go in on people. But at the end of the day, I like Doug. I've never had any actual issue with Doug himself. So I do very much appreciate him coming on. The same with any other pros that ever come on in the future. You'll always get your chance to speak onto this show. But thank you so much for everybody that tuned in. Momo, Doug, thank you for being our guest for this week of Spitfire. It's been fantastic. We'll see you on the YouTube. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.